In a world where Saudi Arabia of all nations is our best bet for a censorship-free entertainment industry. What a situation we are in. And hey, you know what? I even fully understand many of the worries about this. It's Saudi Arabia. It has a whole heaping heck of a lot of interesting legislation, and not to mention a great deal of religious values that are deeply incompatible with the West. But hey, not incompatible enough to the point where we banned a few millions of them from arriving here, so shrug. But former Dragon Age director says EA's new owner won't censor BioWare's progressive message unless they want apocalyptical backlash. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. So the gist of the article here is basically that BioWare is a company that is famed for its progressive messaging. And if the Saudis now move in, that's the new owners of EA, and start wagging their fingers at BioWare and say, no, 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 you don't get to root canal that Draenei up the butt, then the fans will go, oh, that's terrible. That's a terrible public perception. How dare you take away our progressive entertainment? Yeah, about that. Don't know if that's entirely true. See, could there be apocalyptic backlash within BioWare? Sure. If a Saudi prince shows up at BioWare headquarters and starts just beating them with a stick, tearing the pride flags off the walls, and publicly burning the trans colours in the yard, I'm sure that a significant number of BioWare employees will feel personally attacked by that, as well as physically with a truncheon in all due likelihood, and might quit the company. Absolutely. And you know what? Good. These people were holding the company back to begin with, both in writing, in technology, in problem solving, in virtually every single solitary fucking aspect of game development. Progressives are proven to be nothing more than absolute unmitigated cancer on the entire industry. But if that very self-same scenario plays out and they live stream it, there will be 200,000 people watching, cheering at the top of their lungs. There will be smiling hearts and emojis filling the chat at every brutish bap on the head of a progressive skull in BioWare. Every cry of filthy heretic, infidel, will be greeted with rapt laughter as the absolute worst response. Seriously, if you were to announce today that BioWare was making the next Mass Effect and it was going to have no politics in it at all, no current year nonsense whatsoever, immediately you will convince a huge portion of the current population to go, okay, well that sounds absolutely amazing, like exactly what I wanted for. I'm still a bit skeptical here, but I'm cautiously optimistic now. If, however, they were to announce that it will be stridently conservative, that it will be explicitly anti-progressive, that it will be full-on forget the promises of progress, if they release a trailer of Shepard pissing on the pride flag, it would be the single most upvoted YouTube video since fucking Gangnam Style. I don't actually know if that's been upvoted all that much, but I'm presuming this has been viewed a whole lot. We are now in a cultural shift where progressivism is viewed as not merely a negative entity, but as an outright destructive one, recognized by the vast majority of even normies. The word woke in and of itself is a curse word. It is an accusatory, defamatory statement at this fucking point. So no, there will be no apocalyptical backlash. There will be not so much the fart in the wind. You know what I know that's because the progressives' largest victory in the last few 5 years, probably, has been the reinstatement of Jimmy Kimmel, right? Because Jimmy Kimmel was cancelled by the right. Not really. In fact, the right wing didn't even really get moving on this before ABC pulled the plug on Jimmy Kimmel, as they themselves have stated, to bring down the temperature, which surprisingly responsible of them. Not that the temperature remained low for very long, however, when Jimmy Kimmel returned. Then his show saw a massive ratings boost because, of course, he was national news, international news. The next show, 70% of that audience, poof, disappeared. Like so much morning mist. I wonder why. But that was their greatest success, bringing back a man who hadn't even been cancelled in the first place, and then seeing his ratings take a 70% nosedive after his 15 minutes of actual fame were over. All whilst the right was looking on going, okay then. Even if the left managed to somehow, because again, this is the thing, the left has never demonstrated any ability to reward something economically, not once. They've never been able to resuscitate a show's flagging ratings. They've never been able to save a flagging video game. They simply don't have the numbers, and the numbers they do have simply don't have the financial capital to actually prop up an institution they wish to see successful. The right, however, has demonstrated that ability on countless occasions at this point. If it were to be actually invested in a new Mass Effect game, and the only way that will happen, mind you, is if Bioware comes out with a stridently anti-progressive message, which it won't, then simply nobody's going to care. If Dragon Age right now, if Bioware more correctly, releases a game that is simply not speaking to the left and not speaking to the right, nobody will play it. It's as simple as that. It will receive massively negative reviews in all of the mainstream media because it's not progressive enough. The right will continue to ignore it because it's fucking Bioware, and even if they will play it, they probably won't cover it positively in any real aspect. Even if it's good, probably. And if it is progressive, you will yet again appeal to the same tiny minority of people that saw your last, 3-4 games now, flop, including the Veilguard. And eventually, Bioware will simply be shut down, as we are very much so now in the age where a company must switch sides, or very, very carefully straddle the middle ground. Which, incidentally, is the tactic that Disney is assuming right now. And probably the best we can assume for a lot of companies, as most corporations are going to be fully cognizant of the fact that if they lean too far right, then the left is still in institutional power and can cudgel them back into line. If they lean too far left, or even as far left as they have been leaning so far, the right will simply take away its money. The best option then is to try to appease both, and even possibly by simply going, hey, we're not going to do politics. A statement that I already have praised in the past with, say, Helldivers 2, which has at least partially succeeded in maintaining that promise. Partially, grudgingly, hesitantly, angrily denouncing it every step of the way, but still, it's something. So, no, I don't think there's going to be any apocalyptic backlash from the Saudis having their way with Bioware, shall we say. But hey, it's funny to see that they still think that they might have a chance. It will make Bioware's inevitable, at this point in my opinion, closure all the more satisfying. Anyways, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for listening to my little ramblings yet again, and I hope to see you all again soon. Till then, have a good day.